My name is Lynn Rogers. I'm an instructor of creative memoir, creative writing, and I've helped students over a decade and a half to publish novels, anthologies, personal essay, poetry, and more. Here are the principles that I work with. First of all, we learn that we have a storyteller within us and an editor or critic. We do specific lessons to let the storyteller play creatively, writing rapidly, putting the editor aside, and even sending our critic to an imaginary library. We become conscious of when the critic is dominating the show. In creative writing, it's important to show versus tell, to use our five senses. If we were describing this room, it would be the scents, the lights, what we hear, what we feel, even what we taste. The next segment deals with scene components. If you can learn to write a scene, and you can do anything in creative writing. You could write a book, which is a compilation of chapters, each chapter being a scene of perhaps 6 pages, average. A scene needs action. Action occurs anytime we move a muscle. A scene needs dialogue. Hey there. Even talking to ourselves can be put into quotes. Thoughts are not put into quotes. A scene for me needs conflict. I need to care about what's going to happen to your character. You need a problem. Don't be stoic here. Let us know. A scene needs a character or characters. Narrative summary or narration is the least exciting way to write a scene, but sometimes we need it. Amos hung his coat on the peg in the farmhouse, the same place he'd hung it for 14 years. We cover a lot of time in narrative summary there. And as I mentioned, we need settings that involve the 5 senses. The next thing I teach students is about the viewpoints he or she can use in creative writing. There is an I viewpoint. That is the first person viewpoint. There's objective I, in which we tell our story, but our attention is aimed on another person, a most unforgettable character, and their struggles and growth. There is the subjective I, commonly used when we are inside our own skin, or we create a character who speaks as I. The second person you is seldom used. It's a very difficult one to describe. If I were telling you that I am talking to you in my home in San Jose, California on the Los Gatos border, and I'm talking to you about creative writing principles that were passed to me by wonderful teachers, Robinson McLean of the Saturday Evening Post, to Norma Youngberg, to Louise Vernon in adult education, to me. I'm telling you an I story. But if I were to change that and say, you're sitting in your living room in San Jose, California, and you're talking about principles of creative writing, you're wondering if it will be of help to others. There you would have the you person. The third person, he or she, involves usually intimate author. If I don't want to tell everyone that the story is about me, or I wish to create fiction, I will talk about not I, but she, in some cases he. And in this case, the feelings, the thoughts, the physical sensations were with the protagonist in intimate author. Distant camera is less often used. In that case, I would be followed by my actions and my speech. The tall woman in black stretched her arms to the ceiling and gazed at the ceiling. She hung her head. She gazed out the window and sighed. You would be describing only my actions. If I spoke and said, I wonder, when will she arrive? Then you could incorporate my speech, but you wouldn't enter into my subjective realm. Useful because even when you're telling an I story or an intimate he or she, many other characters will surround you, and we need to learn to observe actions and to listen to dialogue. The last 2 viewpoints are multiple viewpoint. A number of people, say several, around a common situation, like a challenge with keeping an airplane in the air, or people who are gathering at a high school reunion. Someone has become famous and they haven't arrived yet. We can understand this story through several different individuals. Omniscient viewpoint isn't used much today. It's actually a viewpoint in which we would know everything that's happening historically, everywhere in the world at this moment, everything that's ever happened in this spot. We would have a god or goddess-like perspective. And finally, I have some tips for the more advanced authors. Literary flashbacks shouldn't be used too often. It can be effective. Bridges and transitions help us connect scenes together when they're not being used as vignette. And it can be a time bridge or a feeling bridge. It was 3 months before she heard the leader's voice again. I used that in The Rainbow's Daughter, a novel I wrote that was based on real life about a cult in the 70s. We all have a unique voice. It's the writing teacher's job to help students have confidence in it and discover it. We need hooks for the first page. The tone of the book should be present from the beginning. Titles are significant. Sometimes it's a modified noun, maybe no more than 5 words, sometimes a lot less. Names should not be too similar. And we always want to ground the reader or let the reader know subtly where we are in time, where we are in the story line. My students are either very intuitive and love to flow, or very structured. The ones that love to flow need to work with some of these principles. The ones that are highly structured need to get the critic out of the way and begin to create rapidly through free writing, the best tool for creative writing.